Stop. Nope. 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 First of all, you will not disrespect Top Gun
Sir, I was
with.
showing that movie the ultimate respect because I am a changed man after seeing Top Gun
First of
Maverick.
all, first of all, you are not going to be disrespectful and try to sound out the theme song.
I
Oh
think I,
man,
I think that's what I just did.
I was trying to play it on the TV behind me so the people could hear actually what, but
I
then a
already
commercial
did it.
came up.
I already played it for him.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, this is a review of Top Gun Maverick. I'm Michael. That's Leroy. This is We Trying, and we're bringing y'all new content on a pretty consistent basis now. Now that we got our setup, at least a few videos a week, right? As we, oh God, can you hear?
Yep.
Okay, that's all right. I guess that's what we're doing. Um, what's your call sign?
So for if I came up with my own call sign, it would be Stitch, but the call sign generator for the movie called me Stinger, which
Okay.
I'm cool with either one.
Yeah, the call sign generator for me gave me Sunset, so we got Sunset and Stinger here.
This is the closest I have to an F-18 helmet.
Okay,
So
I mean, it works.
wait,
It's part of the bit. You trying to bring down the thing? There, there's so much going on now on your head. That is wild.
I was trying to see if I had my N95 mask and I was gonna put it on and then let it hang down.
Sure, sure. I'm proud of you. Um, but so yeah, we both saw Top Gun Maverick. I was fortunate to see Top Gun Maverick in 4DX. Man, let me tell you, if you have not seen a movie in 4DX, you do not know what you are missing. It's definitely a more expensive ticket, but it's like a 2.5 hour ride, amusement park ride that is great.
It gets hot in that helmet.
Yeah, you didn't last very long. I feel like you would not be flying a plane here.
I could.
Hmm.
It was just that that helmet is hot and I could barely hear you. I had to jack up the audio,
Yeah.
and I kind of wanted to play Danger Zone a little bit and hear it in the background, and I couldn't hear it with the helmet on and
Okay.
listen to you.
Okay. Cool. Um, so yeah, let's just kind of start from the beginning here. Non spoilers first, right? What are your thoughts
Hmm.
on Top Gun Maverick?
Uh, I told you this was going to be a good movie. I told you last year, remember it was supposed to come out, and you asked me what would I be willing to risk COVID for? And I said Top Gun, Tenet, and Wonder Woman. I'm glad the third one did not. I didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Well, that must have been 2 years ago then.
2 years ago, because remember Top Gun was supposed to come out last year,
Yeah. So
and
yeah, two
then
years ago I probably would have said that, but okay.
actually, when was Top Gun really? Because it got pushed back. Was it supposed to come out the same year as Wonder Woman?
You keep vamping. I'll look it up.
Because remember, a lot of movies were done and got pushed back. Because remember, Batman was supposed to come out that year as well, and Batman got pushed back. Um,
It was originally scheduled July 12th, 2019,
yep, I knew it.
but then it was delayed to June 26th, 2020
And then the
for
COVID,
several reshoots.
and then COVID came. They pushed it back. Because I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember, Tom Cruise actually debuted the trailer for this at the last San Diego Comic Con they did live.
Hmm.
Yeah, he came out on stage and everybody was like, Tom! And he was like, here's Top Gun Maverick. And they were like, what? And he was like, bow before your God.
Hmm.
He didn't really do that, but I felt like he did that in his heart.
Okay. So yeah, what are thoughts on this movie?
I almost re-enlisted, but I hit the age requirement and weight requirement probably for my age group. I'm
Hmm.
not in military shape anymore, but I was ready to go back. I was ready to fight whoever we needed to fight. I was ready to die for Tom Cruise. I was ready to die for Pete Mitchell.
Yeah. I, I, I mean, the cynical side of you can definitely say, "Oh, this is kind of just a propaganda recruitment video for the military or whatever."
I mean, it's a giant commercial for the Navy. Yeah.
Yeah, but it works. I mean, it does work, man. This movie makes you feel. So again, like I said, I saw it in 4DX. I got to feel everything. But I'm imagine even if I saw it in 2D, just the fact that everything is shot practically, you're like, man, you really feel like you're in these cockpits with these actors, and it is so cool just to see their reactions to stuff and just know that most of like dog on near everything was practical, which is awesome.
So the thing that I that so a lot of people, this is interesting. A lot of people don't remember. Depends on the demographic that you're in. The original Top Gun when it came out. This is an old movie. This movie's over 20 years old. Um, think about this for a second. Tom Cruise was a young star, and Val Kilmer was like the hot. Like both of these two men were hot and upcoming actors. People were like, "Oh my gosh, Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer!" Like this. I mean, they were box office. You had to see them. This is a the original Top Gun. It had a lot of kitschy, the soundtrack. It was a lot of the beach volleyball scene. The singing "Great Balls of Fire." There's a lot to this movie that spoke to the time that it was in,
Hmm.
and it was going to be hard to
A lot of sweat in the movie as well.
a lot of sweat, but it was going to be hard to recreate and do this movie justice. One, because of the special effects that would be needed, the technology that would be needed, the type of actors that would be needed. Like, what would give Tom Cruise a reason to revisit this franchise?
Hmm.
And he has been on record saying he didn't want to do it. It was Joseph Kosinski who actually came to him, and they worked together, and they were able to fashion an idea to where they thought this was doable.
Hmm.
Um, Val Kilmer, before he got his um, throat cancer that they talk about, did an interview with Larry King live, and he talked about the amount of fun and joy he had doing Top Gun, the camaraderie between everybody, and just having such a great time.
Hmm.
And that translated into this film again, to where it just was a well-made film. It wasn't gratuitous in the violence. The sexual situations were very well done, tastefully hand. You didn't. It's a as weird as this is to say, as a propaganda movie for the military industrial complex, it's a family friendly movie. It's
Pretty
a,
much, yeah,
a sentence I never thought I would say
yeah,
for a movie that's basically promoting the military industrial complex.
yeah.
it's it really came off very well. I laughed. Like you kind of tear up. I mean, personally, for me as a veteran uh, who joined the Navy, it brought back a lot of themes, a lot of things, and I really enjoyed it. The demographic is very split on this movie. They really, if you go back and look at some of the demographics that they targeted, the 18 to 34 demos, what TV and movies always want to get. But this movie drove out an older crowd who went to see it because they remember the original Top Gun.
Hmm.
And that was what was interesting to me. There were some kids in the movie theater, teens, young adults, but there were a lot of people my age and older who came out to see this movie.
Yeah, yeah. I I think this movie does a good job of definitely bringing in the older people who remember the first one, and also bringing in that newer crowd. They did. It kind of hits all the sectors for like the big, the big four quadrant movies or whatever. Hits your old, your young, um, the newer generation versus whoever. And the biggest thing that I really liked about it is that it was it didn't take itself too seriously.
Hmm.
It definitely found a way to lean into the camp of the first movie, but still kind of update and modernize it and make it relevant. And just like it found a way to kind of bring all that together, which was awesome for me.
Um, so I went back and I pulled it up. The original Top Gun came out in
86, right?
1988,
Oh, 88. Okay.
86, 86,
Yeah.
1986. Um, it's just interesting to think about the fact that the sequel to this came out in 2022, and and we've talked about about this on our other channel. What is the longest gap between a movie that came out and its sequel,
Mhm.
and and the sequel has done the movie justice? In other words, kind of like a Terminator and Terminator 2. Like, what's
Mhm.
the longest? Because we talked about this with Bad Boys and Bad Boys
For
2, and then
life and
Bad Boys for Life, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like, what is the longest?
mhm.
And right now, I think you're looking at probably the longest between a film and its sequel that has, I don't want to say topped, I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but that exceeded expectations and is a really good movie.
Yeah, I mean it was a commercial. It's a commercial success. It's a critical success. Yeah, it's definitely great. Um, I wonder if they would do a Top Gun 3. I mean, when you make money, people want to continue to do stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I'm sure Paramount would love to make a Top Gun 3. I don't know if Tom Cruise wants to make a Top Gun 3. Um,
I mean,
based
do,
on how this movie ends, who knows what characters would come back and do what, because we're still trying to be non-spoiler here. But
I'm
yeah.
gonna be honest with you. The money side of it says, yeah, let's, we've hit a gold mine. It's a cash cow. We did it. Let's do
Mhm.
it again. And that's what Hollywood does. Hollywood is accused of regurgitating the same ideas over and over again. Nothing's original. Personally, I would like to see them not do a sequel. I mean, it's kind of productive as we're reviewing a movie that is a sequel, and like we love the sequel and we're like, this is great. And it's like, well, why would not another one be great? But it's the law of diminishing returns. When does it stop being good? We have about 13 Jurassic World movies. How many of them are actually good?
Sure.
We're about to hit 10 to what, 11 Fast and Furious movies. How
In the
many of
next
them?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, how many of them will actually be good? And
I mean, I would
so,
argue every single one of them, sir.
no, you wouldn't.
I would.
No, you wouldn't,
You
because you
know
didn't
what?
like the last one.
The only one, huh?
You didn't like the last one.
I thought it was fine.
You
I didn't
you
hate
didn't
it.
you didn't hate it, but you were like, ugh.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah, you were. I,
The only Fast and Furious movie that I think is just kind of dumb is Tokyo Drift. But that's me personally. I'm not a fan of Tokyo Drift. I've come to like it more, but I'm just like, ugh,
it's
this
funny.
what
For me, it's not Tokyo Drift.
was it? Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yep,
Yeah,
it's two. I just
sir.
when
You
you
will
go,
not disrespect Eva Mendes.
I will, and I did. And you know
Oh,
who else did?
who?
The Fast and Furious franchise, because they have been willing to bring back people from the dead before they brought Eva Mendes back.
She appeared in a end credit scene.
Where?
Number 5, because she gives the documents to Hobbs, and they're like, "Would you believe somebody's back?" And that's how they reintroduced Letty. So
I,
she came back for like 15 seconds. I don't know what
they
that means.
they started a whole community around Justice for Han and still ain't brought Eva Mendes back. That's what I'll say about that movie.
You're
But
not wrong.
anyway,
Yeah.
so back to Top Gun. Will they do a sequel? Like you just mentioned, Paramount as a movie studio has not had a lot of hits. Pretty much their only hits have come from Tom Cruise and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and if and this is what's not, I don't want to say sad, but it's when you think about it, it is kind of mind blowing. This is the first time Tom Cruise's movie has broken $100 million.
You mean like an opening weekend or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Interesting.
So this is the first one. If you look at all of his top grossing movies, the most he's ever made, I think, was like 69 million, and I think that was War of the Worlds, and that was a Spielberg film.
Hmm.
Tom Cruise has never been in the $100 million club like some of these other actors have, and they mostly have, and most of his hits have come from um, Mission Impossible movies.
Hmm.
So Paramount needs a franchise. They have Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, who takes those movies very seriously. They are really well done. But Top Gun Maverick was just one of those things where like the nostalgia in us wanted to see it. We wanted it to be good, but how many times have we been let down by a sequel, reimagining, a kickstart of a franchise? And it hasn't been good. Like they've planned all of these movies out, and it's like, hey man, make the first one good.
Yeah.
They did that with Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. I would agree with that. For me, I think I guess we can get to non spoilers. Well, spoilers, but non spoilers to me. Go see the movie. That's all I got to say. Go see the movie. Um, I give it a 4 out of 5. Um, 4 out of 5 beach scenes. And I guess that's your endorsement to go see it as well.
Yeah. Again, I don't have a helmet for the FA-18.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as me, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. I've only got two of them. I've seen a
Mhm.
couple of movies in the theaters, and right now it's the Batman and um, Top Gun Maverick. And just because for me, I give it a 5 out of 5. I give it a 5 out of 5. Sand missile silos.
Okay. Cool.
Because here's the thing. I saw it at the AMC theater.
Hmm.
For those of you who go to the movies or watch a lot of movies or who just see commercials, um, Tom Cruise's ex, who I really didn't get the allure of for a long time.
Well, you
Um,
foolish, but keep going.
I'm just being honest. I just didn't see it. It wasn't until she did uh, Big Little Lies or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, Now her name just slipped out of my head just now.
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. It's like I remember what her husband's name was, but I couldn't remember her name was. But I never got the allure of her. I really did. I was like, she's nice, but I just never saw like as a great actress. And she does this promo where she like tells you about being in a movie theater. This is a safe place to laugh, to cry, to just immerse yourself in the theater. This is a movie that I did that with, that I did enjoy, that I had fun. And a lot of times we go to the movies because we want to see these big spectacle of movie, and it was that, but it also had heart, it also had humor. It showed a character grow up,
Hmm.
and that's something, I'm gonna be honest with you, we hadn't really seen from Tom Cruise. He does a lot of experimental stuff. His Eyes Wide Shut, Born on the Fourth of July. He does some movies that he pushes the envelope. But this was one that I had a lot of fun with, and that's why I said for me it's a 5 out of 5 Sam sites.
Okay.
I This is a movie I say, hey, go see. If you've got kids of a certain age, they will enjoy this movie.
Sure. Sure.
Your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, they will enjoy this movie.
Yeah. So we're in the full spoiler territory here. Where do you want to start? Well,
So
oh man, I want to start with.
thank you, Joseph Kaczynski. You remember him from Oblivion. If you really want to remember him, he did the Mad Mad World short for Gears of War. He did the first Destiny commercial. He did Tron Legacy. I love Joseph Kosinski, and thank God, he talked Tom Cruise into doing Top Gun Maverick. That's where I want to start. Thank you, sir. I salute you. Go.
Fantastic. Um, you got so hype, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, what I want to start with is like what is the age maximum for a fighter pilot?
Mhm.
I'm just curious because as I'm thinking about it, we just did a story in a newscast talking about like at age 65, airline pilots have to retire by FAA
Mhm.
regulations, like they can't fly commercial airlines anymore.
You
I'm just
think Tom
curious.
Cruise is 65?
No, he's 59.
I'm just saying, like you thought he
But what
was.
I'm saying, no, no, no.
Okay, I'm
But
just
what I'm
checking.
saying is he is an
Ages.
older man, and I'm just curious, like in the real world, how old could a fighter pilot be
uh,
before they were like, yeah, you got to get out you can't be in the cockpit anymore. You got to be on the ground. I'm just curious. It don't really matter. I just thought that was interesting. But
I'm
Tom
about to
Cruise is
look
Tom
up.
Cruise. Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise, and
Hey,
he's kind of like F the system. I'll do what I want. Ed Harris ain't gonna stop me. Ed the Hammer Harris ain't gonna stop me from flying. Was it the Dark Star? Is that
yeah.
the plane? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Hold on. I'm looking up. How old can you? How?
if he doesn't find it, chat or people in the comments let us know. Um, but I like that the movie starts off with that whole test pilot's idea of flying this new prototype stealth futuristic bomber um, that does or does not exist. Some form of it exists, right?
What? I'm still looking.
Does some form of this thing exist? Is step?
So becoming an Air Force pilot requires you to meet strict physical, medical, vision, and academic requirements. Applicants must achieve qualifying scores on the AFOQT exam, meet all requirements, and pass a selection board prior
Hey,
to
hey!
age
Don't give me a
33.
package. Don't give me a package. Give me a reader. That's not what I asked. I said, what's the age maximum?
So for Air Force, it's 29 or 33. No, 33, 33.
That's the oldest you can be.
That's, yeah, you must pass the requirements before age 33.
Interesting. Okay. And then I wonder how long can you stay in the air?
54.
Okay, cool.
54. Their Scorch, that's his call sign. Commander Kurtz is believed to be the squadron is believed by the squadron to be the oldest active USN fighter pilot, hanging up the G suit at the age of 54.
Okay, there we go. Cool. Um, in Tom Cruise's world, he never ages and he can just do it forever, which is cool. Um, I just like the way this movie opens and him flying in that prototype uh, plane and kind of seeing it explode at the as it does that U bank or that turn back into the what is it,
Mm-hmm.
the stratosphere atmosphere, something like that. It just looked so perfect how everything was shot. Everything was
Sorry,
shot with such a perspective.
I was reading up on Commander Kurtz.
Okay, great.
His son is 18 and was a lineman in a lot, and they anyway. I was looking him up. Going back to what you said about the age requirement, brought up something that was interesting to me in the movie. If you talked about the practical effects, so I watched a couple of videos about this. So one of the things that Tom Cruise thought was very important was because they couldn't put camera crews into the planes in the cockpits, he had to teach. So though there are real cameras in those cockpits, he had to teach the actors. So Jay Ellis, Glenn Powell, Miles Teller, how to be cinematographers to show them how to actually capture lighting, which would be a good shot, all of these different things. And it goes back to that idea that you were talking about, the age limit, because you did see some of the wear and tear on Tom Cruise when he was in the Dark Star. And then when he was in that plane, the jet, when he was brought back to Fightertown, USA, and they were like, "We brought you here to teach. We didn't bring you here to fly. Like, this is your last chance," which is a combination of age and the fact of, "Hey, man, you a honey badger. You just don't care." So,
Yeah.
like, Maverick is a honey badger. Like, if you think about that,
Every time when I think about this movie more and more, I feel like it's more almost like a meta commentary about Tom Cruise's life as well. Because there are certain times they would say certain things like, "Maverick, we needed you back, and like we couldn't have done this without you." And he's just like, I can't let people down. It's like I felt like it was a meta commentary like Tom Cruise's life of yeah, we needed Tom Cruise to come back to the movie scene and bring us movies like this that you have to see in the movie theater.
it's funny you said that. I got the opposite. I got a sense of when watching this movie, it was we battled about this jokingly how you always said that Bad Boys is an okay movie, Bad Boys 2 makes no sense, and then Bad Boys for Life is begrudgingly a good movie
Hmm?
because the characters had to grow up. The way that they handled this movie, Bad Boys for Life, um, was so different from any of the other movies that they had done. I got that feeling while watching this movie because, in a sense, the character that was Maverick is known, and it's almost like a legend in and of itself, that this character he created. And in
Hmm.
this world, there's Maverick and then there's Pete Mitchell. And Pete Mitchell, Maverick is a call sign, but he doesn't know how to be Pete Mitchell. He doesn't know how to navigate life outside of being a fighter pilot. And
He
it
doesn't
was
know how to let go.
he doesn't know how to let go. Metaphor for the movie, but it was interesting watching him not like be paralyzed at certain times when he didn't know what to do with like human emotions. So like, is he? We know the dynamic. Rooster's the son of Anthony Edwards' character Goose, who
Hmm.
dies, who flew with Maverick. We find out later in the movie that Miles Teller's character Rooster isn't mad that his dad died on his watch. He's mad because Maverick took years off his career by denying him entrance into the Naval Academy into flight school,
Hmm.
which leads you to believe that they had a good relationship up until that point.
Right.
And he's faced with this kid who he loved like a son, and he tried to be the dad. He admits, I tried to be the dad that he didn't have, and he didn't know how to repair that relationship. And then you, like we see right now, you see the picture of Iceman, Val Kilmer's character. They were Glenn Powell and Rooster back in the day.
Yeah.
That was their dynamic, and that moment, that human moment, you don't get to see in a lot of these big block. Like I said this before to you on the phone. If I was The Rock, I would watch this and I would call Tom Cruise and say, how do I duplicate that?
Hmm.
Because as much Tom Cruise plays the same person, we just talked about this with Ryan Reynolds, Kevin Hart. Certain people play the same character. Tom Cruise has kind of played the same character in a lot of his movies, but this one had a heart that you don't see in a lot of other movies. And I don't know if
Hmm.
that's the nostalgia factor from the fact that it's Top Gun, or the fact that it's Tom Cruise and Joseph Kosinski and Christopher McQuarrie putting all of this together, drawing on those emotions, and then presenting it in a way where you're like, these are high stakes environment, high octane, very type A people, but also they have real world situations that you can relate to.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked a lot about Tom Cruise so far, but I want to hit on some of the other actors. Just the I don't think anybody does a weak job. I feel like everybody kind of carries their own weight. Some people maybe stand out more, but I don't feel like anybody dragged the movie down. I feel like
No.
everybody played their part, even if it was a small part. It's like, oh, they were crucial to the story, and it really
Hmm.
made the story work very well.
Yeah. Um, to me, the standouts for this were um, Monica Barbaro, who plays Trace.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, the new kids on the block, basically Miles
Sure.
Teller, Monica Barbaro. Oh, excuse me. Um, those two, their relationship, even though it looks like there's something there to it, it they did a real good job playing off each other. And I'll give Glenn Powell all the credit in the world, because it's hard to play a likable dick,
Yeah.
and he is a total out for himself. They call him Bagman. His call sign's Bagman,
No, Hangman.
Hangman, and they call him Bagman because
Yeah.
you're left holding the bag because he will leave you.
Right.
Um, it's He plays that character so well, and it's a variation of Val Kilmer's character Iceman, that cold, that manipulative. He gets under your skin, but you don't hate him, and
Yeah.
that's a very fine line to walk. And Glenn Powell does a very good job of that.
Yeah, and I think the one thing the movie does well too is really ratchets up the tension because as I was watching it, or before I watched it, I was like, oh, somebody's gonna die. It's not gonna be Tom Cruise because it's a Tom Cruise flick. He's gonna make it through, but somebody else is gonna die. He's gonna do whatever.
See,
As I'm
I'm, I'm,
watching the movie,
I'm gonna pause you right there.
uh-huh.
I thought he was going to die.
Oh, okay,
I did. So go on, because I'll tell you why afterwards. But go ahead.
okay. But as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, anybody could die at any time. There are a couple of different moments like where was it with Jay Lucas?
J
What's his
no
name?
J Ellis, J
Jay
Ellis,
Ellis.
hmm
Um,
aka Lawrence from
yes, Lawrence.
Insecure. If you hadn't seen Insecure, go see it. J Ellis is amazing. He actually directed some of the later episodes in season 5, I think.
All right. But yeah, like there's a scene where I guess the G's get to him and he kind of like he passes out. I was like, oh, this is gonna be where he dies.
That's not
Um,
J Ellis though. That's that's that scene you're talking about. That's with Coyote.
who's
That's
Coyote?
Greg Tarzan. Correct, Greg Tarzan Davis. That's Coyote who passes out. when Maverick goes and chases him down and uses the guns to try to wake him up when
Uh
you
huh.
thought he was going to crash with Trace,
Hmm.
and then
No, 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 no.
that's not that scene that
No,
you're talking about.
it's happens close to each other, but it's a
Oh,
little bit
okay,
different.
okay.
So they're doing the test run. Jay Ellis' character is he gets caught up in G's and he starts to pass out. So
Hmm.
then Tom Cruise he gets a lock on him to get the beeping sound to get him to
Hmm.
wake up.
Yeah.
Then everybody's cool, and then a random bird just flies through the screen.
Yes. Yes.
That's where it traces thing, and they have to do this whole thing about turning
Yes.
off engine and whatnot.
Hmm.
But either way, I was like, oh, he's gonna die. Okay, cool. Oh no, no, he's gonna die. No wait. Um, but the whole movie is very good about setting up if you think people are gonna die. And spoiler alert, as we said, nobody does die, and I think it earns the fact that nobody dies because it keeps you on your seat.
It does, and that's why I said I had a lot of fun with this movie, and that's one of those things where it's with everything that's going on. There are some movies that are very dour, and there's a reason for that, and this was a movie that I wanted to see, that I look forward to seeing, and with everything going on in the world, that I was like, I had fun with this movie. And
Hmm.
going back to that point where you're like, you didn't think Tom Cruise was going to die. I did. I thought Tom Cruise was going to die because the way they set up this movie in the trailers, you see the pins being put on the coffin, and
Yeah.
there's a shot of the trailer where you see Tom Cruise wearing, they're all wearing their dress blues, and you wonder as the movie's going on, like, is Tom Cruise going to die? And you're like, oh no, and then he goes and becomes the leader of the team,
Hmm.
and I thought, because this is Top Gun Maverick, and I didn't think they I didn't think this is setting up for a franchise. I thought, and spoiler alert, I thought this was reminiscent the whole time I'm watching this. I thought it was reminiscent of this,
Hmm. Okay.
because this ended the franchise and they were going to start. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen No Time to Die, don't listen to this. James Bond dies in this.
Hmm.
And I was like, as I'm watching James Bond die, I'm like, oh my gosh, he can die. And that's what I thought was going to happen to Maverick. So
Sure.
many times I was like, oh, this is it. And then others, I was like, this is it. And you were like, man, he made it.
He made it. Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, are they going to kill Miles Teller? He
Yeah.
loses the dad in the son. I was like, that would be messed up. I was like, that's a FU moment right there. But and they made it. And it wasn't cheesy.
Mm-mm.
It was really well done. It was respectful to the original, because again, the original is kind of cheesy. Let's be honest. It's an '80s
Sure.
movie. It has its moments, but they did a good job, and they even brought back some of that cheesiness and did a spin on it. One Republic has that song in it, where they're doing the beach scene, and you're like, how in the world are they going to do a beach scene again?
Hmm.
And you're like, and then John Hamm, who is the perfect foil, he plays the perfect straight man to Maverick's honey badger, and he's walking around and he's on the tarmac and he doesn't see anybody. They're no, like, that whole sequence is so well set up.
Yeah.
And then they're on the beach, and bravo to Jennifer Connelly, because that woman looks good in everything she does, and she has aged gracefully. That woman, this movie was so good it made me forget Jennifer Connelly's character was rich. That this woman came from privilege. That's how
Yeah.
good this movie was. She owned a bar, a Porsche, a sailboat. She took time off to take her daughter sailing.
Well, it's and if you know if you're not paying attention, it can definitely seem like, oh, this character came out of nowhere. But if you're paying attention, you realize
Hit
that's
him,
the admiral's daughter
hit him
that
with him,
that was
hit him
mentioned
with
in
the
the first movie.
hit him with the deep cut.
Yeah, so I mean that's cool. That's good that they were able to bring that back. I like the dynamic between Jennifer Connelly and Tom Cruise. I thought the relationship was fun. Uh, I wish maybe there was more for her to do, but I think that's just because I just want to see more Jennifer Connelly, which is fine. Um, that might be my only really negative about the movie. I just kind of wish there was more with Jennifer Connelly.
My I would have liked to have seen. See, this is hard because as much as I like Val Kilmer and what he brought to the movie, as much as I would like to have seen him do more, I do understand why his role was limited,
Yeah.
and I will admit that was one of the most touching, that scene, and when Rooster and Maverick finally make up, when they finally have that heart to heart, that moment, those two moments in the film to me really spoke to the heart of the film. But I
Yeah.
would have liked to have seen more from Hondo and Warlock.
Hmm.
Uh, Hondo plays the warrant officer who was with him, who warned him about Ed Harris, who was with him on the tarp on the aircraft carrier, and he was like, because it was this moment where you're like, he ain't coming back,
Yeah.
and
Because they kept saying that line, you got that look in your eyes.
yeah,
Maverick, like, that's the only one who know how to look.
and then
Yeah.
also Charles Parnell who plays Warlock. That's just a smooth brother, man. Like he
Yeah.
just like that one time when Tom Cruise was like all excited he was about to get back in that cockpit, and John Hamm is like, or aka Cyclone, he's like, I don't know what I should do, and he's like, that was a rhetorical question. He didn't really mean you to answer that. Like
Right.
he was
Yeah.
he's the dude who's like always saving Maverick from himself. And I would
Yeah,
have
for
just
sure.
kind of liked to see a little bit more of him because he was just that cool. Because when he walked, when Tom Cruise walked into the room and he sees Cyclone and Warlock, he has a deference to Warlock that you hadn't seen him do to anybody else.
Hmm.
Even the fact when he was talking to Ed Harris, who was going to kick him out of the military, he didn't have.
Yeah, he
But
did
when
not care.
he gave no fucks.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about no fucks given.
Yeah.
He gave none of them.
Yeah.
That's why Maverick is a honey badger because honey badgers don't care. Um, but it was just when he walked in the room and James Parnell is sitting over there and he's like Warlock, and you're like, who is that dude?
Hmm.
That Maverick is like, who? And like, because you saw he doesn't care. He didn't care about Ed Harris. He definitely didn't care about John Hamm's character.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would. That's my only gripe. And I know Rooster's mom has. I would have been Kelly McGinnis, and was it Meg Ryan or Melanie Griffin?
Meg Ryan.
Would have liked to have known what happened to the. Like we know Meg Ryan's character dies.
Hmm.
What happened to Kelly McGinnis's character?
Sure.
That. Other than that, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. What was your favorite scene?
Honestly, it was watching the FA-18s fly through the terrain and the camera shots that they had because you know what it's like just in television how long it takes to get one shot that we're getting 15 seconds and we go through all of this to just
Hmm.
have an anchor walk 5 feet.
Sure.
Those scenes when the FA-18s were so low to the ground and you could see the air coming off of them, and then you got to see, again, spoiler alert, a F-14 Tomcat, like the original. You saw Tomcat flying, and you saw these fifth generation fighters, as they refer to them, and you saw what they could do compared to what these old planes. And again, remember, these are, it doesn't seem that long. Like it doesn't seem like there shouldn't be this big gap between a plane that's this old versus this old. And then you realize, oh, that's why we spent $1 trillion on an F-35 because
Hmm.
it can do that.
Hmm.
And so when you saw the fifth generation fighter basically just kind of glide and just kind of, and it was like watching a real life transformer.
Yeah.
And you realize like that happened in real life. That was kind of the cool thing. And then watching, like listening to real people who are fighter pilots talk about the film and talk about certain things. And like, okay, in this situation, those were the things that got me, the cinematography and realizing that these are real planes doing these maneuvers.
Yeah. For me, the scene that it's a few words. Miles Teller, aka Rooster, says, "What the fuck?" When that plane,
For that plane.
they're in the F-14 and the
Uh-huh.
fifth gen fighter coming face to face, they think that they got a lock on them. That F the 15 Fighter's like, nah, bro, you ain't got me. He, I don't know if he turns off his jet and spins around
He
on them.
inverts. Mm-hmm.
And Miles Teller says, what the fuck? And I'm like, wow, that was because, and it was so cool because I'm pretty sure everybody in the audience is probably like, what the fuck did I just see? It
Yep.
was really cool. And the
And
fact that that was practical was like, wow, that's wild.
and that's what got me, that I was like, so I have a I have some family members who are work for military contractors, and just some of the work that they've been able to do, and we talk about it. And the and like I told my cousin who's worked on parts of the F-35, for me, there's two halves of me. There's the journalist side of me who hates the F-35, who hates the amount of money we spend on it, who like I want to tear it down because I'm thinking we spent all this money on this damn plane. How much money we could have spent on education, and like, but then there's the nerd side of me who's like, that's why we have this jet fighter.
Yeah.
Like, that's why. But then on the flip side, you're like, you can't just rely on this type of plane because, and here's the thing that a lot of people are not paying attention to. I don't know if you realize this. We were basically just watching the training for the attack on the Death Star.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, that's literally what we're watching. Like, Joseph Kosinski and Tom Cruise got together and was like, you remember that part in Star Wars where
How do
they
we make
blew up
it
the Death
modern?
Star? How do we make it modern? That's
Yeah.
basically what they did. Hence why I have this.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
the
remember,
the training thing doesn't work, so the guy just has to go on field. Yeah, for
but
sure.
not just that, but remember, they had to fly through the trench. If you go too high, the
Mhm.
SAMs get you. If they had to blow up the Tomahawk missiles, because, and then remember when Darth Vader, he's like, and they were like, TIE fighters, here's the bogeys who come, the bandits, and you're like, I'm watching Navy Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting with aerial dogfighting movies going forward, just to see how they compete with what Top Gun did. And I'm curious, like once we get more Star Wars movies again, and we're going to see some stuff in space, how it's going to look. 'Cause, like, it's going to be cool because you're going to see lasers and stuff and all that and bright lights, but this isn't practical. So it'll just be interesting to see how that looks.
Well, see, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are waiting for Rogue Squadron, because Patty Jenkins, if you remember the introduction to her being and directing Rogue Squadron when it was the Star Wars I think it was D23 a couple of years ago when they announced it, she was in fighter pilot gear, and it
Mhm.
harkened back to Top Gun, and she talked about how her dad was a fighter pilot,
Yeah.
and to me, you saw things with these jets that you're thinking now, okay, if they did this with practical effects, what can you do with the Starfighter with special effects? And we got a glimpse of it. I know it's a very controversial film for a lot of people, but if you go back and watch Last Jedi and watch Poe Dameron fly his X-wing,
Hmm.
and you remember how he skidded across, they did an excellent job of showing how dynamic that fighter is. So I'm hoping people are watching Top Gun Maverick and they're like, oh, we have to step our game up because they did that in real life. We have all of these animators. We should be able to match that.
I mean, we'll see. You got any parting comments? We've been talking for like 40 minutes. We can wrap it up. You got any parting comments?
Go see the movie. I mean, this is in my top 10. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
we're in June. This is now June. Go see the movie. Like, don't take our word for it. Go watch the movie for yourself. See what you think of it. Again, it is a literal commercial, 2 hour commercial for the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
So unless you're like some, beatnik hippie who's like, down with the West, this is
Beat
like,
Nick Hippie. I love it.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
any new terms. But to me, it was a very good film. It was fun. It had its highs, it had its lows. It's a very well executed movie, and don't just take our word for it. Go see it for yourself. I enjoyed it. Go
Yeah.
see Star Wars, Navy Star Wars.
There we go. Leave a comment below on our YouTube channel here. What you thought of the movie if and when you see it. Also find us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You've been seeing some supers and credits pop along the bottom of the screen here, telling you how to find us either through all those social medias. And we'll be back with more videos once we record them. We out. Dude.